Yeah, my name is Jaakko. I'm from Finland, Helsinki, and I've been doing digital marketing and sales now about 10 years. And I've been in a marketing agencies couple and in-house teams also in different industries. And also a music maker. I create music and I'm a composer. So music is the thing I'm really passionate about, and I'm also working at the moment in a two music companies and helping them to do better marketing basically. And the one is family in music, and the other one is all good management. And yeah, two different music companies at the moment I'm helping. So my expertise is basically marketing and sales and in a digital world. So that's basically it.
So first of all, I would like to ask you, so when you are starting like targeting your audience or understand where your audience is coming from, analyzing, like doing the analytics and etc. So for you, what's the number one rule to make this process like more efficient?
Yeah. So I think at the beginning, when you start to segment or target your audience, it all starts from understanding your customers. So I would say that before even looking any data or any analytics from anywhere, you should really pay attention to your customers and customer profiles. And I mean that you really should do a great customer research at the beginning. And this is where most companies, and I guess it's also in the dance industry, is the problem that we might think that we understand our customers, or we think that we know what they want, or what are their challenges or their biggest goals they're trying to achieve. But we might be wrong in a very crucial way also. So the thing is to understand your customers and really do really detailed customer research. And if you want to do it really well, it's not that you just send one survey and ask questions. You have to really interview your customers, trying to understand their life and what they're really trying to achieve and what are the challenges and obstacles on their way. And that way you understand also how you can segment your customers and create profiles. That's where it all starts from. And especially if you're like beginner or starting your marketing, you don't have any data yet. So that's the situation. There's nothing to look at. So the best way is to find the people who are in your target group and talk to them and interview and ask the most important questions, and then start to build your segments and targeting criteria.
So you do normally the 101 strategy. So which questions do you use to interview your audience? Like in a 101, it can be like the process can be very long and extensive. So how do you cope with this? So what questions do you use?
Yeah, I have this kind of pretty long list. It's about 15 questions, I would say. So it first starts from understanding your customer's life situation. So what is the situation in his or her life at the moment? Is she or he working, or what she's doing in her life, or does he or she have children, or what's the overall situation there, so you can understand what's the situation behind everything. So that's where it all starts from. And then we go to goals. What are you trying to achieve? What kind of changes you would like to see in your life? And if you think about dancing or dance piece, that's where you can relate your questions and make them fit in that world. And then there's like the secret hopes. Do you have any secret hopes behind your goals? That's really important if you wanna if you have an impact to your audience emotions.
Yeah.
What kind of obstacles there are? What would you like to learn right now? What do you fear? what are you interested in at the moment, what makes you angry, and what big trends there are at the moment that are affecting your life right now. That's like the base behind everything. And then we should also try to figure out how our customers or target audience is buying. The buying behavior is really important when you think about targeting and finding right channels and messages to your customers. So where do they look for information? Which channels do they use? Where are they active? Do they go to events? Do they talk just their friends? Or what is the way how we can connect with them? And when we're figuring out that their buying behavior and behavior overall, we should then try to dig deep into our service and how we are trying to affect our customers. So what's the impact of our services in their life, and why would they buy our services? How are we different from our from our competitors? And trying to get these answers from our customers. And if you don't have customers yet, you're just at the beginning, you maybe have to try to test things and figure out them by yourself. But the moment you have a great customer, you should try to ask what is the value of our services or product in your life, and really crystallize it in your messaging.
Yeah. And do you, that's, I thought important also to ask you this, because now with all the GDPR things, and it can be very, I mean, can be very difficult to know which kind of data are you allowed to collect from your customers. So what do you do? So what's your line between what is acceptable and what is not acceptable? So how do you capture data from your customers?
Yeah, so you should always have the permission to collect the data. That's the thing. And I think the easiest way to collect information or data from your customers is to ask it in a different interaction points. For example, the good way to collect more data is when you have, for example, something free to offer. For example, if you're hosting a webinar, you have the registration form, and then that's the place where you can ask more info about your customers or your target audience. You can, for example, ask their age or their biggest challenges, or what is the most important topic for them at the moment right now, and you can just ask it, or in a drop down field, or just open field, and you can write your answer there. But you have to have the permission to collect the data and tell it to your customers. So always put a checkbox there where you ask, is it okay that we save this data and use it this way, and please look at our privacy policy here. So then you're safe. Yeah,
definitely. I just ask you this because, like, for us, it seems like very easy, but normally, like, independent artists, they very struggle with this. So they get like very afraid. So what kind of data can I capture? And then you don't know if you are doing right or wrong. So yeah. I think there's like a myth around the data, and nowadays everything, like, you are being spied. Like, our lives are not private anymore as soon as we connect online. So I think this is very important, like, to respect the space of our audience, of our potential customers. Otherwise, we may lose in the end, you know. So this is very, very important to bear in mind as well.
Yeah.
Another point, which is like the language, so the tone of voice that you use, the copywriting. So do you have like any tips to give when you are like targeting your audience? So at first, which tone of voice do you use? So how do you choose how you talk to your customers?
Yeah. So the one very important thing is to speak the language your customers are using. So you most of the times entrepreneurs know pretty well the language their customers are using, because they might come from the same world, so it's obvious for them. But if you're like a marketer, or you're coming outside to the company, or something else that you don't know your customers so well, you should really try to learn and study the language, and go to the places your customers are, read the books they are reading, go to events, and or go to social media channels, or forums or groups or whatever, and be there. Just listen and find out what are the language they're using, and read the news about the industry and all this stuff. So get familiar with the language, because it's really important if you want to be credible. So you are talking the way that your customer sense that when you're reading or hearing your stuff, your content, then they don't have to ask themselves, do these guys even or girls know what they're talking about? It has to, come through from everything you're communicating. So that's the one thing. And the tone of voice is also it's kind of it relates to brand building. So what kind of feelings or emotions do you want to create in among your when your customers are interacting with your brand? So that's the question. And the tone of voice, it might sound an easy task, but it might not be that if you have many people inside your company who are communicating with your customers, because the tone of voice should be always the same. So when you're when you're the only one in your company, it's easy because you are the tone of voice. Then it comes, naturally. Just talk how you talk, then it is what it is. But when your team grows, it's really important to define the tone of voice. What kind of emotions do we want to create, or what kind of words do we even use? How do we react when a difficult situation comes in front of us? What is the way how we react? So these are really important questions to answer before you start to communicate. Then you're always doing it the same way, and you're building your brand.
Yeah, I think like a very easy way to understand this, like before start to communicate, is like how we behave as customers. So like to put ourselves in the skin of like being a customer. So what do we like to read? Do we have time to read like huge copies, or to only watch like a 5-second teasers? Because it's very important like to put ourselves on the other side of the fence. So I think this is very actually like very plain and straight. Like we need to understand that we are also customers and we also consume brands. It's of course it's very important like to put ourselves on the other side.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I think this is very important, like because artists like very struggle with this and make like loads of like complex. Like we don't need just like to do being a pro on Google Analytics, and no, it's fine. Like when we are starting, I think is this like very very small step of just like putting ourselves on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, and when you really understand your customer and you can be empathic towards them, then you're in a really right track.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So just going a little bit backwards, I was just wondering, so the concept of like persona that we talk about, like, so when do you start? Like, how do you know what's your like group age? How is the main gender? So I don't know. So how do you start to draw this kind of persona to your organization?
Yeah, so in every organization you have some kind of idea about your customer and age and gender and everything. That's a pretty easy part to answer those. What are they, men or women, or how old are they? Where do they live in? These are pretty easy questions. But I would start to collect the data and knowledge inside the company or first, and do the interviews first inside internally, and ask our crew to answer these questions, and then go to the customers and ask the same questions from them, and then we can align our are we on the right track, and do we understand our customers, how well do we understand them. And when you're interviewing, try to pick up the best ones you can ever wish for. So who would you like to be your customer? You can, it can be anyone, but it would be a perfect fit for you and perfect fit for the customer, and then interview those people.
Yeah, that's very important, like to take the time to actually listen to ourselves within our team, because if we do not match with the intentions of our customers, something is wrong. So we need to redefine what's our mission, our goals, our values, and everything. Just now, I was wondering, like, to sum up, like, to the people that are will watch us. So can you like provide me 5 steps to do like an effective like audience segmentation? Like just very straightforward, just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps.
Yeah. So it all begins from the customer research. So step 1 is do the customer research. First, collect the information from your team, as we just mentioned, and then go to customers and interview them. That's the step number 1. I think no one should ever segment any customer profile if they haven't done the customer research first. And then the second is to segment your audience. And normally, how it's done in a old world, I would say, is that you just segment your audience by the age or gender or even profession. That's not so important. The thing is that we want to understand is their challenges, their goals, and their obstacles, and these kind of things that are what they're trying to achieve, and segment your audience by using those criteria. So really segment if they have the same goal, same kind of challenges, then that's one group to target your message to. And then the third step is to really write and produce the marketing material, for example, your website and everything for these personas you have just created. That's the one thing that starts to automatically filter the right kind of customers to you. Every time the person from your target group comes to your website, he or she immediately recognizes if you're talking to them or not, and it filters the right kind of customers for you when you have written your content by using your buyer personas. So you should really always talk to one persona at a time when you're writing your stuff, and that affects of course to Google search engines and so on when you're doing this right. And the fourth step would be to choose the right channels and use the information you've had from the customer research. So you have to ask, where are they at the moment? Are they using TikTok or Facebook or where do they look for new information or inspiration? So make your channel decisions is the fourth step. So you know where to reach, how to reach your customers or audience. And then the fifth step would be to create the campaign and make sure that all your messages are targeted to one person at a time. I see too often that companies are trying to talk same time to every segment or every target group, and then it ends up being nothing to no one.
Yeah.
So really choose who are we talking at the moment right now, and then make the message as perfect as possible every time you create a new campaign or do anything. But so that was the fifth, but I have one plus bonus, and that is to collect the data all the time about your, and more info about your customers. So it's ongoing process. So all the time, find ways how can you learn more from your customers. For example, I'm now in the family in music. I guess you know the platform. So what we have done right now is we launch a chatbot to our website, and the goal is just to gather more data or info about our target audience. What are their biggest challenges at the moment? So that's one way to collect more info all the time. And you can find many ways how to do it. You don't always have to interview your customers. If you've done the customer research well once, then just improve your knowledge and collect the data all the time. So that's a bonus tip.
Yeah, and even like across like social medias, for example, when you produce like good content, and for example, it's very good, so you captivate the attention. Do you want to see more? Please sign up.
Yes.
Please, if you sign up, we can give you something in exchange. I think it's a two-way relationship where like people get in touch with us, but we need to reward people. Otherwise, if it's only like a one-way relationship, it's very important to make it clear that the connection and the friendship will be like lost. And it's very important, if you want to keep collecting data, to offer something in return. I think it's very important. Otherwise, there are like millions of other brands and you don't stand out from the crowd. So this is a very important also statement for your bonus tip here. That's great. I think it's, to me, it's the end of my questions and everything. I think it was very clear. I hope people will get the message, and the dance community will get our message, like very simple and straightforward.
Always on.
Yeah, and that's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Jaakko. We can, we keep in touch and we talk.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah, see you.
See ya.